Hey, this is Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert, a NASCAR podcast. Things would be sizzling on to South Beach as NASCAR would make an early spring trip to South Florida. All three series of Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup would be in action from Friday to Sunday. Storylines going into the weekend: Kyle Larson would be doing a triple-header weekend, racing in all three series. For Trucks, would frontrunner Corey Heim steal the show again, or would Cup drivers of Kyle Larson and Ross Chastain take the win as they are each back in the Truck Series for Homestead? Xfinity, can Justin Allgaier keep up his mile-and-a-half momentum, or could a Sam Mayer, who's won there in the past, take the checkered flag? Cup Series, who would come out in top at Homestead-Miami, a track that has hosted the Cup Series championships for years? Still plenty of racing action to go around, with ARCA East having their first race of the season at Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola on Saturday, along with the ASA All-Star Late Model Tour on Sunday for the second race of their season. After Gavin Boschel walked away with the Clyde Hart Memorial win in the first race of the season, who would come on top in Pensacola? Plus, very exciting news for the podcast. This episode will be our 100th episode in total, uploaded on Spotify. To help ring in the 100th episode, we have ARCA East driver Becca Monopoli and Xfinity driver Josh Williams will call in at the end of the episode to go over the season and his outlook on the rest of the schedule. Just so happy and blessed how far the podcast has come in 4 years. Big shout out to my friends, family, supporters, and of course our big sponsor, Magical Travel with Dave Weichert. Now for the ARCA East season preview. ARCA East would be in action for their first race of the season, the Pensacola 150 at Five Flags, to start their 39th season. Let's dive into the full-time drivers. Taking the wheel of the car vacated by two-time ARCA East champ William Sawalich will be youngster Max Reeves, who will be making his ARCA platform debut with Joe Gibbs on Saturday. He kicked off his season by competing at the World Series of Asphalt at New Smyrna Speedway, where he broke through with his first win at the track in the Pro Late Model class. Sigma Performance Services will tackle the entire ARCA East season, with ARCA West standout driver Tyler Reif at the wheel of their number 23 Chevy. Another contender joining the fray this year will be NASCAR's Timmy Hill, who is launching his own ARCA program and will contest for the full ARCA East Series schedule for this season. Moving along, next we look to Cole Raz, who is fresh off a pair of top 10 finishes in ARCA competition aboard the 76 Ford for AM Racing. Man Motorsports will have two entries in the field for Hunter Wright and Jackson McLaren. Connor Mozak, a winner in Kansas at the ARCA level last year, will be driving the number 28 Chevy for Pinnacle Racing Group. Another World Series winner last month, Carson Brown, will make his ARCA platform debut Saturday. The winner of two Super Late Model features last month at New Smyrna will pilot the number 4 Chevy out of the Hettinger Racing stable. Additional ARCA platform debuts expected Saturday for Isaac Kitzmiller, London McKenzie, and Corey Ankin. Other notable entries for the race in Pensacola are Zachary Tinkle, Takuma Koga, Andrew Patterson, Becca Monopoli, D.L. Wilson, Brad Smith, and among others. Now for the ARCA race recap. Max Reeves enjoyed a near-flawless outing in his debut weekend with Joe Gibbs in the ARCA Menards East program. After grabbing the fastest times in both practice and qualifying, Reeves set a commanding pace for most of the Pensacola 150 to deliver Gibbs his fourth victory at Five Flags in the last 5 years. Despite his dominance, a win was far assured from Reeves, facing challenges from drivers like Cole Raz and Connor Mozak, while simultaneously dealing with copious lapped cars. Reeves stayed vigilant all evening, composing himself for the win. Max knew the expectations placed upon him when he got into the number 18 Joe Gibbs car on Saturday. The past 4 ARCA East Series seasons concluded with the number 18 being atop the driver's standings. The title split between William Sawalich and Sammy Smith. Even with Connor Mozak being a consistent presence in Reeves' rearview mirror, Max never wavered and put together consistent lap times in front of the field. Congrats to Max and all at Joe Gibbs. Should be many more victories at the ARCA level to come. Post-race, we were able to talk to ARCA East driver Becca Monopoli. Here's what Becca had to say after finishing 14th. Have ARCA driver Becca Monopoli calling into the show. Becca, you raced at Daytona for the ARCA opener this year. I know it didn't end the way you wanted, but with being a Florida native, how was that experience?
Yeah, you're right. It didn't end the way we wanted, but it's a great experience. I mean, it's Daytona. It's what every driver wants to do. So I enjoyed the whole 18 laps that I got to be there and before we got caught up in the wreck. But, I mean, that's also part of the experience, too, I guess you could say, is besides racing at Daytona, you've been in a wreck there. And, I mean, it's not a good thing, but it's part of the racing experience. And Daytona's just it's got its own aura. It's just the Mecca. Unless you're there, it's hard to explain. It's just
exactly.
It's just awesome to be there. Yeah.
Cool. No, awesome. I appreciate you going over that. You just raced the ARCA East race from Pensacola at Five Flags on Saturday, along with the Pro Trucks on Friday. Finished 4th in the Trucks and 14th in ARCA. How would you say the weekend went, and how can you use this moving forward for your season?
So that was my first time ever racing at Pensacola and Five Flags, and I wasn't so sure what I'd think about the track going into it, but okay. I really enjoyed it and wished we lived a little closer to run there more. The truck handled really well. We don't run the same rule package as them, so we were a little behind, and we didn't want to mess up anybody's points during the ones that race there weekly. Yep. So I mean, I gave up a few spots for the people that run there weekly. I didn't want to mess them up, and we could have had a better finish. But then that really helped us going into Saturday with the ARCA race because it just gave me that little extra track time, getting to learn the line of where to run for the car. And it took some of the guesswork out of Saturday. So it was just more so feeling what the car is going to do without learning what the track needs to do. So I was a little bit ahead of the game of what we would normally be. So that helped a lot. And the car just felt good on Saturday. We struggled a little in practice trying to find a good, happy setup where it wasn't too loose, too tight. We practiced on old tires. Then once we put stickers on, and we definitely picked up, and the car felt great. We qualified 12th out of 21 cars. We're really happy with that. And then the first half of the race, we did great. I think we stuck around between 11th and 13th position. We were in contention for the lucky dog for a couple of the cautions, but we'd miss it by like one spot. And then midway break, we put on a set of scuffs, and that just – it didn't help us at all. It didn't have the traction we needed and the handling for the second half of the race, so we just kept the car clean, stayed out of the way, and finished in one piece, and that was really our goal. So finishing 14th out of 21 or 20 or 21 that started. I think there was someone that didn't start. I mean, we're really happy with it, and we know going into next year what to expect, and just more. It just gets more seat time in that car to help us in future races.
Gotcha. No, totally makes sense, especially with this being your first time at Pensacola. Sounds like the trucks gave you kind of a head start to the ARCA race on Saturday. Just like you said, kind of battling in the middle of the pack. Does this boost your confidence battling and finishing ahead of full-time ARCA East drivers?
It does, and not just who you finish in front of, it's just getting to actually finish the race. Obviously with Daytona, as you mentioned, we didn't get to finish that one. We had another race last year we weren't able to finish. So it's being able to finish in one piece and clean. That's also a confidence booster as well, as not just about who you beat, but just that we were able to do it and compete and last the whole race. So that helps a lot. It gives the team confidence. It gives the owner confidence. It gives our sponsors, Orlando Health, confidence. So it's just a good thing all around.
Cool. Yeah. Definitely sounds like you had a good experience at Five Flags. With being from Lakeland, Florida, a lot of great tracks throughout the state of Florida. Been living in St. Petersburg the last number of years. Been a frequent patron of the quarter mile of Showtime. What is your a couple of your favorite tracks that you grew up racing on?
Well, my favorite one was Orlando Speed World. They're not really racing now there. They're using it for drifting, but that one's probably my favorite in Florida. Pensacola might have just made it into the top 3 right now, though. I enjoyed that one. But we run Auburndale regularly, New Smyrna. We got Citrus coming up next month, and we're going to go up to Cordele in Georgia, too, next month.
Oh, nice.
So we run all over what we can with the trucks, and it just keeps me in the seat for the ARCA car.
Gotcha. Yeah, that kind of leads into the next question. I don't know if it's too early to ask, but plans for ARCA for the rest of the season?
Oh, yeah. Well, so this year was an 8-race schedule. Our next race is Talladega next month. And then we go to Nashville, which I believe is the weekend right after. We have IRP, Toledo, Berlin, and Elko, I believe, are the rest of the races for us this year. So we have Orlando Health riding with us all this year, and I believe next year as well.
Okay, awesome. No, I appreciate you going over that. Best of luck in Talladega. Really appreciate you hopping on the show, and hope to talk to you soon.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate Becca calling into the show and sharing her insight. Now for the ASA Pensacola recap. Excited to watch the super late models of the ASA All-Star Tour to be back on track after watching them for the first race of the season at New Smyrna. Notable drivers in this one would be Johnny Sauter, Derek Kraus, Chase Pintano, Colby Howard, Caden Honeycutt, Gavin Boschel, Bubba Pollard, Dawson Sutton, Cole Butcher, Derek Thorne, and several others. After qualifying, the 81 of Carson Brown would be on the pole. Brown led every lap leading into the first pit stops when a miscommunication with crew chief Anthony Campy led him to lose his track position, and later a brake failure would end his day. Then it would be all Cole Butcher, who started in third. Not even a late race caution and overtime finish would deny the Wilson Motorsports driver of the 28 a trip to victory lane. The Maritime Canadian Butcher held a 4-second lead over Jake Garcia in second, who is driving the Ricky Turner-owned 35 with 5 laps to go. That's when Nicholas Nagel went around in turn 3, which would push the race into overtime. But that did not affect the outcome. Butcher would simply drive away to his 5th victory on the ASA National Tour. The top 10 was Cole Butcher, Jake Garcia, Matthew Craig, Stephen Nasse, Colby Howard, Gavin Boschel, Kyle Steckley, Caden Honeycutt, Bubba Pollard, and Jake Finch. The next race of the ASA season will be at Dominion Raceway on April 5th. Now for NASCAR Trivia Time. This week's question is, who won the last Cup Series championship hosted at Homestead-Miami in 2019? Answer coming at the end. Now for the Truck Series recap. The trucks would get the on-track action going for the weekend on Friday night. After qualifying, the 11 of Corey Heim would be on the pole. A wreck on the first lap involving Gio Ruggiero and Ben Rhodes would fast forward stage 1. The stage would end with exciting racing between Kyle Larson, Lane Riggs, and Corey Heim. Larson would be leading, but Heim would work his way around him and secure the stage 1 win. The second stage would be fully green and led by Heim. Ty Majeski and Stuart Friesen would make surges at Larson for second, but Larson would be able to take control of the second spot in the closing laps of the stage. Corey Heim would win stage 2. Heim and Larson would start up front to lead the pack back to green for the third and final stage. 4 laps in, Ross Chastain would clear Heim for the lead. 10 laps later, Heim would return the favor and take the lead back from Ross. 2 laps later, on lap 90, Kyle Larson would be trying to get a run over Lane Riggs. Larson would spin, but get lucky and not have any damage. He would have to restart 24th following. Just like the previous restart, Chastain would jump to the lead, but laps later, Heim would retake the lead. With 20 laps to go and control the lead, Corey Heim would lose power of his truck, and Chastain and Riggs would get back in front of him. Heim was able to quickly recycle the engine and get it going. Despite the occasional power loss, Heim would take back control of the lead, showing just how fast his truck truly was. With 4 laps to go, after battling his way back through the field, Kyle Larson would pass Ross Chastain for third and had Riggs and Heim in his sights. With 3 laps to go, Heim again would lose power, allowing Riggs and Larson to get by. With 2 laps to go, Larson would get by Lane Riggs and secure the win. Wasn't the way we expected Larson to win, but true heartbreak for Corey Heim. Moving right along to the Xfinity recap. After qualifying, the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota of Taylor Gray would be on the pole. Kyle Larson, running the triple header, would be starting 17th after winning the truck race the night before. And it wouldn't take long for Larson to move up to the front, sitting in the 5th spot after lap 8. After a yellow for Christian Eckes' car smoking, Justin Allgaier and Sam Mayer would bring the pack back to green. 2 laps later, Larson would clear Justin Allgaier for the lead. 2 more yellows, Larson and Mayer would restart the field with 3 laps to go in the stage. With 1 lap to go in the first stage, Ryan Sieg would make a dive on the inside of Larson. Sammy Smith on fresher tires would follow and surge to third. On the final turn of stage 1, Sammy Smith would get by Sieg to win the stage. What an exciting first part of the race. Many of the leaders would pit, but some would stay out. Those who would stay out would be Harrison Burton and Carson Cabole, who would lead the field back to green. On the fresher tires, Jesse Love and the number 2 Richard Childress Racing Xfinity car would take a turn at the lead, followed by Sam Mayer, who would take a go at the front 3 laps later. All this time, Kyle Larson was making his way back towards the front. With 9 laps to go in Stage 2, Larson would take back control of the race and go on to take the Stage 2 victory. Larson and Austin Hill would lead the field back to green for the 3rd and final stage. By lap 131, Larson would have a 3.5-second lead over Mayer in second. 11 laps later, Sammy Smith would start the next round of green flag pit stops. Larson, Allgaier, and Nick Sanchez would all pit on lap 147. 3 laps later, Larson would return to the lead, and he would put in some work on the field, amassing a lead over 6 seconds by lap 169. And by lap 192, there would only be 5 cars left on the lead lap, with Larson having over a 12-second lead on the second-place car. But a lap later, heartbreak for Larson would occur when the yellow flag would fly for a spinning Taylor Gray. This would put the race into overtime. On the restart, Larson would spin his tires, allowing Austin Hill and Justin Allgaier in second to pass. On the final lap, Hill would wash up high on turns 1 and 2, allowing Justin Allgaier to get by. Allgaier would go on to win in Miami, giving last year's champ back-to-back wins. Congratulations to Justin and that entire Junior Motorsports team. Now for the big one down south, the Cup Series recap from Miami. After qualifying, the Hendrick 48, driven by Alex Bowman, would be fastest and on the pole. Early on, the 12 of Ryan Blaney would jump out to the lead, and by lap 20, he would have over a 3-second lead over Bowman in second. By lap 32, cars would start the pit for the first cycle of pit stops. Blaney would pit 2 laps later and return to the lead by lap 42. A yellow would fly late in the first stage for a spinning Christopher Bell, and a restart would occur with 5 laps to go. Blaney would hold off Alex Bowman and win stage 1. The second stage would be completely green and very entertaining. After Hocevar and Bowman would lead the pack back to green, Ryan Blaney would return to the lead by lap 95. Just like the first stage, there would be green flag pit stops in the middle of the stage. Blaney would pit on lap 119 and return to the lead by lap 141. And 9 laps later, Blaney would have a 2-second lead over William Byron. By lap 160, Denny Hamlin would be making a charge to the front, passing Byron for second. 2 laps later, Hamlin would get by Blaney and go on to win the second stage. Larson and Hamlin would lead the pack back to green for the final stage. 4 laps into the stage, Bubba Wallace is able to get past Kyle Larson and Hamlin for the first spot. By lap 186, Blaney would be making another charge to the front and would pass Hamlin for third. Heartbreak would come for Blaney 20 laps later, unfortunately, as his motor would expire, throwing oil throughout the track. A yellow would come out and all lead cars would pit under that yellow. The final restart would occur on lap 217 with Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson on the front row. Alex Bowman, starting in third, would dive into the inside, clearing both Bubba and Larson, taking the lead. With 20 laps to go, Kyle would pass Bubba for second and have his teammate Alex Bowman in his eyes. With 6 laps to go, Bowman would brush the wall, just slowing him enough for Larson to get by. Kyle Larson would not look back and secure his first win of the season. Quick look back at the predictions we made for Homestead-Miami. Trucks went with Heim. He finishes third after engine problems derailed the race win for him. Xfinity, after dominating so much of the race, unfortunately would go into overtime. Kyle Larson started 17th, would finish 4th. Cup Series, Larson ran that wall and did it again. He brings home the win on the Cup Series level in Miami. Just the Xfinity win away from the full weekend sweep for Larson, still walks away with 2 wins in Miami. Moving along to our yellow flag, green flag segment. Yellow flag trucks, Corey Heim's engine. Heim would have had his 3rd win of the young season if his engine didn't sputter. No reason to worry though. Heim still has a heavy hold among the truck series standings. Green flag for the trucks, Daniel Hemrick. He has his best finish of the season, bringing the 19 for McAnally Higgleman to a 5th place finish. Expect that 19 to be up front more often. Yellow flag Xfinity. Had him on last week's episode, but tough day for Matty D and the crew of the 99. They finished 36th. Green flag Xfinity. They haven't gotten a win yet, but boy, we've sure been talking about those Haas factory drivers almost every week. 2nd place for Sam Mayer and a 5th for Sheldon Creed. Only a matter of time before one of them puts it in victory lane. Yellow flag Cup Series. Trackhouse Racing is in a slump, and all 3 of their drivers finished outside of the top 20 in Miami. Can they turn it around? Green flag Cup. After utter dominance of Christopher Bell, looks like the momentum is switching towards Team Hendrick. We will see how that bodes out in Martinsville. Now for discussions with Dave. Larson, oh so close to the 3-peat in Miami. We've been talking last episode and this episode of Kyle Larson running all 3 NASCAR races this last weekend in Miami. If my memory is correct, I believe the last driver to sweep a NASCAR weekend in trucks, Xfinity, and Cup was Kyle Busch several seasons ago. We did predict Larson to win Xfinity and in Cup. We knew in the trucks he was going to have a battle with Corey Heim. And as we said after the recap, Kyle Larson, the way that he won the truck race, spinning, having to drive through the whole field, that's what we thought could end his day, something like that, a driver error or a pit crew error or a penalty. But Larson is able to charge through the field. He gets some luck with Heim's engine sputtering. If Heim doesn't have that issue, Larson isn't even thinking about the Truck Series win. But in the end, that's racing, and Kyle brings home the Truck Series victory. The Xfinity race the next day, Larson, that late race caution, he would have walked away with the 3-peat if that didn't happen on the Xfinity Series side of things. In the closing laps, we mentioned there was 5 cars in total on the lead lap. And Larson probably even could have lapped more if the race stayed green. And then we know what happened in the Cup Series side of things. Kind of little luck with the trucks, but Larson had his car there at the end. He's able to get around the 48, his teammate of Alex Bowman, and goes on to win. Even though he was the Xfinity win away from the weekend sweep, he was a lot closer to it than some realize. Moving on to the next topic on Discussions with Dave, championships back to Homestead for 2026. If everything seems to be lining up the way it is, with NASCAR moving Homestead-Miami, the race earlier in the schedule this year, I think it is to make renovations for the track to host the championship in 2026. And boy, I hope so. Say what you want about Phoenix, the restarts are so exciting and makes for exhilarating racing. But after this season, it would be 5 years of championships there. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think it's time to move on from that funky 1 mile track with even crazier restarts. I give NASCAR kudos for trying something new. It has made for some exciting championship races, but just think it's time to move on. Moving back to Homestead, which of all the different tracks NASCAR races on, I think that 1.5 miles kind of sits right in the middle. And this will also, I believe, help to silence those who think the playoff system is broken. Homestead, as we've seen from 2002 to 2019, has brought the cream to the top for the Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup Series over that time at the end of a long season for each. Will we see the championship move to Miami for 2026? We will find out later this season when NASCAR announces the schedule for next year. We hope so. Now for our last topic on Discussions with Dave for this episode, Corey Heim talk. Coming off his second truck win of the season and what would have been his third in Miami, I've heard this question on the NASCAR Sirius XM station last week. Corey Heim is the best NASCAR prospect since fill in the blank. This had my brain rolling, thinking of several drivers that came to my mind. First was thinking Matt DiBenedetto. But he just was not as dominant as Heim was in the trucks. Was also thinking Chandler Smith when Smith was racking up his Truck Series wins with Kyle Busch Motorsports. But then Smith did kind of sputter out in Xfinity, Chandler did. And now he is back in the Truck Series with Front Row. I think the most similar comparison at this current moment for Heim would be Christopher Bell. When he was coming up through the ranks with Joe Gibbs Racing. Heim will run several Cup races this year with 2311 Racing starting in Kansas, which Heim has won in the Truck Series before. We just really need to see Corey in the Cup seat more to make comparisons further, but expect Heim to be full-time in the Cup Series soon, maybe as close as next year. And can he be able to have that same success eventually as Bell? Time will tell, and that will be Heim's time. That wraps up this episode's edition of Discussions with Dave. As we move to Martinsville for the first points-paying short track of the season, drivers will have their elbows and chrome horns out for sure. Here are a few drivers to look out for in each series, starting with the trucks. Of course, we start with last year's champ and short track ringer, Ty Majeski. He's won a slew of top late model events, including the Snowball Derby and South Carolina 400. Saw how fast Ty was just last month at New Smyrna. He will be ready for Martinsville in the truck. Two other full-time truck drivers, and they're also racing the ASA series, are 2024 Snowball Derby champ Caden Honeycutt, and with already a victory on the Cars Tour West, Dawson Sutton. Be on the lookout for Stort Friesen. The longtime truck driver is a ringer on the dirt short tracks. Will Stort be ready come the checkered flag? Don't forget about the 19 Christian Eckes won in this truck last year at Martinsville. Can Daniel Hemrick do the same? Now for the Xfinity side of things. Expect Justin Allgaier to be the top dog with 6 top 5 finishes at Martinsville since 2020, including 1 win. Sam Mayer, just like the last several weeks, should have speed, and since 2021 has 3 top 5s in Martinsville. Sometimes we see with drivers that are really good on the road courses, they do well on the short tracks where the braking can be so important. Could Connor Zilic get his first Xfinity win on an oval? Last but not least, we know he's been at front at Martinsville before, but if he can keep his car clean, and that's a big if, look out for Brandon Jones. Now for the Cup Series drivers to look out for at Martinsville. He just won his first Cup race this year. Josh Berry, with all the short track experience and success, seems to be coming into his own. Think he will have multiple wins this year and always good on those short tracks. Ryan Blaney, recently he's been so good, especially in the fall in Martinsville. Can he put in a victory lane for Team Penske for the first time this year? He just won last week, but Kyle Larson is always so good on those short tracks as well. Think him and Byron will be the fastest from Team Hendrick. Joe Gibbs drivers of Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell should be up front as well. Now we have our next guest driver calling in, driver Josh Williams. Josh drives full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in the number 11 car for Colleague Racing. Super cool to have Josh back on the show. Have been a guest of his team in the pits for past races at Daytona. But more importantly, Josh was the first driver I ever interviewed on the podcast back in 2023 when he was driving the 92 for DGM. Let's bring him on to the show. We have a very special guest, or should I say a very special mullet, driver of the 11 car in the NASCAR Xfinity Series for Colleague Racing, Josh Williams. So great to have you back. Buddy. Heck yeah. So great to have you back on the show, Josh. You were the first driver I ever interviewed on the show back in the spring of 2023 when you were still in the 94. Really appreciate you calling on for the 100th show.
Yeah, man, definitely. Yeah, when they said it was your 100th show, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's come a long ways in a short amount of time.
Yeah. I mean, some of the first episodes were like 9-10 minutes long. I mean, now I'm, up to 30-40 minutes. So, appreciate that. I know it was over a year ago, but how was that switch from going to a team that was close to where you grew up in Port Charlotte, Florida, in DGM, to Colleague Racing that's based in Welcome, North Carolina?
Yeah, it's definitely been a change. I think the biggest change is just the cars and a little bit better equipment and things like that is the biggest change that I've had to get used to up there. So, but great group of people and it's super fun, and we're having a little better year this year than we've had the first year. So luck's closer on our side this time. So that's going to help us a lot this year.
10-4, yeah. I mean, with Chris Rice and those guys, definitely have a good support system and backbone, just like you said. Hey, 10-4. Fast forwarding into this year, Daytona, as you said before, is like rolling the dice. You were there at the end, but unfortunately got caught up in that wreck. The next week in Atlanta, you rebounded right away, getting your career best in qualifying with that P3 starting spot. Must have felt good to show that speed right away.
Yeah, no, it was really good. And, Daytona was unfortunate, for sure. We had, we had a top 5 car for sure. We needed a little bit more speed to be able to contend for the win, but, getting wrecked there at the end kind of set us back a little bit, as far as points go, things like that. But being able to fire off at Atlanta and qualifying in the top 3 was really good. So I'm glad we could, showcase our speed there at the beginning of the season, and hopefully we can keep that rolling all year.
Heck yeah, no, totally agree. Was that Daytona crash was pretty crazy from the stands. I'm glad you're all right, but was super pumped to see you top of the leaderboard, starting high up in Atlanta. You've had 3 top 15 finishes this season, with your best being a 12th in Phoenix. Happy you're feeling better after being under the weather in Vegas. I know Phoenix and Martinsville aren't too similar, but at the time, Phoenix's mile was the shortest track of the season so far. Do you feel like your team has momentum going into the half mile of Martinsville this weekend?
I think so. We've really worked hard on our race cars and make them the best that we can. Colleague struggled there a little bit in the past. I feel like I had some pretty decent speed there last year. So just trying to build off of that. But, I'm looking forward to it. I love Martinsville myself too. So, it always helps when you go somewhere that you enjoy. It kind of makes things not as bad if they are bad, if that makes sense.
I gotcha. I had this question at the end, but how many Martinsville dogs are you gonna eat this weekend?
I don't know. Last time I only had like 2, so we'll see. There's a lot of downtime.
Probably got to eat them after being in the car, I would assume.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Today we've got practice and everything going on, so today would probably be the best day. So we'll see how many we can get in.
Gotcha. You feel good going into the practice and qualifying for Martinsville?
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to see how the car handles. We've changed some things. Me and my crew chief Eddie Pardue, we've been talking back and forth about it. For the past few weeks. So,
heck yeah, awesome. Sounds like you guys are pretty prepared.
Oh yeah. The short tracks are a good place to capitalize on having a good finish. Because you never know what can happen. So we'll try to get up front there and stay up front all day and try to chase for a clock.
Gotcha. Heck yeah. Still at the start of a very long season. We know in the Xfinity Series that they take 12 cars into the playoffs. You're currently 18th in the standings. How are we going to get that 11 car into the playoffs this year?
I think we'll be okay. I think our biggest setback was, me being under the weather, and we had a 29th place finish there at Las Vegas, and that kind of hurt us a little bit. And we were running 13th last week and had a tire go down on that green-white checkered at Homestead. So ended up 19th. So we've got good speed. We're being consistent, and that's good to build momentum and just get better. So I think we'll be just fine. And you never know, some of these tracks, man, we've been pretty good in the past. I think we're going to be better this year. So maybe we could sneak up there and snag us a win and make it as easy as it can be.
Heck yeah, that a win, as you said, would be the easiest way into the playoffs. But definitely, you're showing that consistency. The beginning of this year, just like you said, just like any of the 3 series, especially in Xfinity, there's always going to be driver changes and new drivers entering the series every year. As a driver, how long does it take typically to get a sense of how someone else is going to race you? And does that change on the track by any chance?
It just depends. I mean, everybody drives different, right? So,
yeah.
And then I guess it depends on how you treat each other right off the bat, right? So, and that always kind of carries on for a while. Racers never forget. That's a true story. So, if somebody gets into you a little bit, you'll probably remember it 20 years from now. So,
gotcha.
It's a revolving door of people, in the Xfinity Series, and there's a lot of people who've been in there for a long time. So you get kind of just a respect thing. There's certain drivers that'll give you room. There's certain ones that they won't. So you just got to keep that in the back of your mind when you're racing against these people, and race each driver the way that that they race. So
10-4. I appreciate you touching on that. Working off that, when you go to the bigger tracks of Atlanta, Daytona, Talladega, drafting is so important. After being in the ARCA garage in January for the test, you hear different drivers talking about who they like working with on the track. You've been in the sport as for a long time. Is there anyone specifically that stands out as a good drafting partner throughout the years?
I've worked with a lot of different ones, and I think that that they trust me, I trust them. It's it's a small list, but we work with all the Chevrolet drivers for sure. That's our main goal.
Yeah.
But Austin Hill, he's super good. Justin Allgaier, he's super good. So those 2 guys are, I feel comfortable with those guys, and my teammates as well. Chris Neckes and Daniel Dye.
10-4. Appreciate that. Coming to our last question, is there any tracks on the rest of the schedule that for this year that you're specifically looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to Darlington. We had some pretty good speed at Homestead on a track that's got a super wore out surface. So hopefully we can kind of make that work at Darlington. We've been working on that as well. So, and I love that track. It's one of my favorites. Martinsville this weekend too. So we got some coming up here in a row that we're looking forward to, and especially Talladega. You know, we had a shot to win there last year and got wrecked on green, white, checkered. So running second. So we were, we got some good races coming up here.
Remember that last year Talladega one like it was yesterday. But yeah, really appreciate your time so much again, Josh, and best of luck the rest of the season, man.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you so much, man. Anytime you want to have me on, I'm ready.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy.
How cool was that? Super appreciative for Josh's time. Was a little bit nervous talking to him. Apologize for some of the repeated words. But as he said, hope to have him on the show soon. Moving right along to Fast Davies bets. For the Truck Series, not the hottest numbers for the regulars, but Corey Heim is plus 100 for a top 3 finish. Think that is very attainable for him. Xfinity, Brandon Jones top 3 is plus 450. He can be up there at the end if you're feeling lucky. Cup Series, he won his first Cup Series race this year and has won in Martinsville in 2021 in the Xfinity Series. Keep the momentum going for Josh. He is plus 700 for a top 3 and plus 350 for a top 5. Now for our predictions for wins in Martinsville. Truck Series, think Ty Majeski will pull the cat out the hat Friday for his first win of the season. Guy's just too good on those short tracks. Xfinity, Cup had the 3-peat winner this year, so why we can't have that in Xfinity? Give me Justin Allgaier. He's just been so consistent at Martinsville. Now for the big one, the Cup Series race at Martinsville. He's probably had the worst luck this year, already having 3 DNFs. Think that bad luck wears off, and it's Ryan Blaney in victory lane on Sunday, getting that grandfather clock. Now for our trivia answer time. As mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this week's question is, who won the last Cup Series championship at Homestead-Miami in 2019? The answer is Kyle Busch. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, a.k.a. Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He'll be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for on-track and midweek updates. Instagram and Facebook are both Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. This wraps up our 100th episode on Spotify. Thank you so much to all the different drivers that have called in and have interviewed at the track so far in the last 4 years. And can't forget, big thanks to our main sponsor, Magical Travel with Dave, Disney Dave Weichert, my father. And thank you so much for the support from my friends and family and other listeners. Thank you so much. Can't wait to be back on the airwaves next week. Splash of Gas out. Hope everyone has a few hot dogs in honor of Martinsville. We'll be watching as well. Till next time, everybody.